Hello friends, welcome to Coding Host YouTube channel. In this video, we are doing question find sum of n numbers using recursion. So we have to find the sum of n numbers. So for that, first I will make a method public static. And if you have seen my last two videos of print decreasing and print increasing, so in that question we are printing the numbers from increasing and decreasing order. So because of that we were using method with the void return type, because in that method we do not have to return anything, we are only printing the numbers. But in this question we have to find the sum of n numbers and we have to return that sum to our main method, because you can see that we only can print the sum of all the numbers after we have added all the numbers from 1 to n. So because of that I will use here return type as int, and I will name this method as find sum, and in this method we are passing this number n. Then in the main method we are calling this method find sum, and I am passing here 5. So what we have to do is we have to find the sum for the numbers from 1 to 5. I can do one thing. So first we will do our work. So I will make a variable for getting the sum, and in this sum variable what I will do is I will insert the current value of n. So you can see that what we have done, we only have taken this variable sum, and in this variable we have taken the current value of n, and after that I am saying to the sum variable rest of the sum you take yourself by calling this method again. So I will write here find sum and I will write here n minus 1. So we are only doing the sum for the current value of n, and for the rest values this method will do itself. We don't know how it will do, but it will do. And in the last we will return this sum variable. So we know that we are passing here n minus 1. So it means that this number 5 will get decrement every time when this method is calling itself, and at some place it will become 0. So that is our base case. So when the value of n will become 0, we have to stop this method. So if n equal to 0, we have to return, and you can see that in this method we have return type int. So when the value of n is 0, we will return here 0. So now if I run this program, you can see in the output we are getting 15. So now I will explain you how this method is working. So you can see here we are passing 5 in this int n variable. So we have a int n variable and its value is 5. You know that we have to write here line numbers, so you can easily understand what is happening in this method. So this is line number 1, 2 and 3. So when the value of n is 5, this if statement is not going to execute, because value of n is not equal to 0. Yes, so I will simply write here x. Then this first statement will execute. So this first statement will execute, and what it will do, it will make a sum variable, and in this sum variable we are inserting the value of n. So here in this side I will write here sum, and its value is 5 right now. When the value of n is 5, so in this sum variable we also have 5. Then the second line will execute, and it will call this method again for n minus 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. So when the value of n is 4, what will happen? This if statement will not going to execute, so I will write here x. Then this first line will execute, so it will make this sum variable, and in this sum variable it will store this n. So same it will make a sum variable, and in that it will store the current value of the n, which is 4. This first line has executed. Then the second line will execute, then it will call this method again with n minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. So when the value of n is 3, this if statement will not going to execute. So I will write here x. So you can see right now we are going down. So this first line will execute, so it will make this sum variable in which it will store current value of n, which is 3. First line has executed, then second line will execute, and it will call this method with n minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. So when the value of n is 2, this if statement will not execute. So I will write here x. Then this first line will execute. So this first line will execute. So it will make this sum variable, and it will store here n. Then again it will call this sum method for n minus 1. So this second line will execute, and it will call this method for n minus 1, which is 1. So when the value of n is 1, what will happen? This if statement will not execute. So I will write here x. Then first line will execute, and it will insert n in the sum variable. So in the sum variable we will get 1. So you can see that for every value of n we are getting memory for both these variables every time. All these sum variables are different and all these n variables are different because all these variables are for the separate methods, because we have called these methods till now 5 times. So because of that, for every time memory has been taken. Then when the value of n was 1, cycle n will execute, then it will call this method again with n minus 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So now you can see when the value of n is 0, what will happen? This finds a method will return a 0. I will say like this, it will return here is 0. So when the value of n was 0, for that value, now this memory will get released, because now there is no any more lines left to execute, because this if statement has executed and it has a return here 0. So this value will added in the sum value when the value of n was 1. So 0 plus 1, it will become 1. So you can see that when the value of n was 1, we have made the sum variable in which we have stored 1, and that time we call this method for the n minus 1 which was 0. And when the value of n was 0, so this method has written as 0. So 0 will be added in this sum variable. So 0 plus 1 will become 1. Then this third line will execute. So you can see that now we are going upside. So value of sum is 1 and it will return this value 1. So now this value will go back to this method when the value of n was 2. For this value n which is 1, all these lines has been executed, memory will get released for this, and we have received return value as 1 from that method. Now in this sum we will have 3. This sum value has become 3 when the value of n is 2. So now this last line will execute, third line will execute, it will return this sum variable. So this sum variable will go back to its parent method, because when the value of n was 3, so this method was calling the find sum method for the value 2. So this method is parent method and this method is child method. So when all the lines will execute in the child method, so then it will return the value to its parent method when the value of n was 2. We have received return value 3, and this value will get added in this sum variable. First memory will release for the value n equal to 2, and we know that we have received 3 from the last method. So because of that, now in this sum variable we will have 6. After that this third line will execute. So when this third line will execute, it will return this value 6 to its parent method, which was method when the value of n was 4. So now memory will get released for this method because all the lines for this method has been executed. So we know that from the last method we have received 6, and 6 will be added in this sum variable. So now value of this sum variable will become 10. Now when the value of n is 4, this third line will execute, then it will return this variable sum to its parent method. So it will return 10 here, and after that this method will get removed from the memory. So we have received 10 from the last method, and right now value of sum is 5. So 10 plus 5 will become 15. So now in the sum variable we will get 15. So when the value of n is 5, third line will execute, and this third line will return the sum variable. So you can see that for the value of n equal to 5, which is the parent method, so this main method was the parent method, because this method has called this find sum method for the value 5. So it will return this sum value 15 to this main method, and then we will print this return value, and in the output we will get 15. And after returning the value to the main method, memory will also get released for this method. So this is how we can find the sum of n numbers using recursion. Thanks for watching.